Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Pace and Space podcast right here on Pick Swap Media. My name is Sean Barnard here with my guy Sam Oshtry, and the NBA season is off to the races. We got a lot to break down and to get into today. Plenty to dive into across the entire league as well as right here with our hometown Philadelphia 76ers. So excited to dive into it all, but before we get rolling, Sam, how we doing, my friend?
Great. The NBA season, it's been going on for a week now. Feels like it's months already. We're finding out what's real, what's not. Sixers 3-0, some impressive performances. Spurs 4-0, some Magic, Mavs going the other opposite direction. So we'll break it all down.
Yeah, absolutely. A ton of takeaways, even though we are still in the very early part of the season. We're going to do a little stock up, stock down across the league. So go back and forth, punch a lot of these teams. And we're going to start right here with a team that probably is soaring as high as anyone, that being the Philadelphia 76ers. If you're to take in expectations, I do think this team is exceeding things by the most notable margin. So, Sam, before I get absolutely fired up about so many parts of this team right now, what are your initial takeaways from this 3-0 start?
Yeah, so I mean, it's all about VG Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey. Those two guys deserve the bulk of the credit for the Sixers resurgence, if you want to call it, because based off last season, how last season went and ended, this is a completely different team, and it's a fun team. Yeah. The first time in what feels like a while, the Sixers are fun to watch, and they're fast, and that's part of the reason why they're so fun is because of how fast they're playing, and they're pushing the pace way faster than they were last year, but really they have in most of Embiid's era, because he's not a guy you're going to play necessarily fast around. But they're not building their offense around Joel Embiid anymore. He's not the system that he was two seasons ago, even when he got hurt 39 games into the year and was out until that next playoff series. You're not building around Embiid anymore. You're building around this dynamic backcourt of VG Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain when he comes back, and Quentin Grimes has been great. That's who you're building around. So Embiid can be part of the system, a cog in the system, but he's no longer the system. There's a lot of stats to get to, but that's what's been so interesting about the Sixers so far.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right about that. And for starters, I think it was necessary for this team to get out of the gates hot this year because of how last year went and really the skepticism that has hung over everyone. And I would assume even internally there, I think it checks a lot of boxes. Obviously, the standings matter, that you need wins at the end of the year, and it's important to get off on the right foot with that. I do think to get the fan base to buy back in and for there to be a belief in this team, they need this type of start. And then internally, man, there has to be a feeling of we can actually do something here. Beating teams like the Celtics and Magic and even the Hornets are not this pushover that they used to be here. These are real wins that they're picking up. So I'm thrilled that this is how the season has started. I do think it continues tonight as we're recording ahead of the Washington Wizards matchup, which will go down there. But nonetheless, to keep it about the Sixers directly here, the athleticism is off the charts, man. This team looks like a Nick Nurse team, and we have not seen that yet. They want to run and gun. They want to force turnovers. They want to beat you in transition, and it's electric to watch. Some of those two-way stretches of VJ Edgecombe, the block shots leading to Maxey threes, leading to dunks down the other end. I can't remember another time where a Sixers team has ever looked remotely like that.
100%. And VJ Edgecombe has been awesome. He's been terrific. We'll talk about him a million times, but Tyrese Maxey deserves as much credit for VJ Edgecombe's early start to this year as anybody, because it's like VG Edgecombe isn't a guy you're going to give a lot of on-ball reps to. He's not someone you're going to play the one. He's not going to organize.
Although he has way more than I thought was going to be the case.
Yeah, more than I thought. But most of it, like most of his touches have come when the advantage has already been created and the defense is already in rotation. He's great at attacking closeouts because he's so athletic and taking advantage of advantages already created. And those are created because of Tyrese Maxey, who's becoming one of the most unguardable guards in the league. Like, forget the shooting and the big break threes and all that. He's as fast and as quick as it gets. No one can stay in front of him. He's good at getting to whatever spot he wants on the floor in a way that, like, it reminds me of Shea, but not in the same way, because Shea does it a little more meticulously. Tyrese Maxey does it with his burst and his quickness and his speed, but Shea is impossible to stop getting from his spots unless you run two at him. It's getting to that point with Maxey where he gets to any spot on the floor he wants unless you're running two at him. So because of that and because of the advantages he creates, he's creating so many opportunities for VG Edgecombe to attack closeouts, to already have advantages made where maybe it's a 4-on-3, maybe it's a 2-on-1. VG Edgecombe's either exploding to the rim or he's making the right read. I mean, the guy's averaging over 5 assists through 3 games. So that's as impressive with VG Edgecombe's game as anything is how he's reading the floor. And the last thing is those two are just lethal in transition. And part of that is because VG Edgecombe has a streaker and someone as fast as him as Tyrese Maxey. When those two guys are out in transitions, a lot of times Maxey creating for VG Edgecombe and Edgecombe's finishing at the rim. He's so good at finishing around the rim in a way that I didn't think. No one thought that watching him at Baylor. I mean, both the finishing at the rim and the three-point shooting are two areas that were not properly developed at Baylor, and why there were concerns about him coming out of the draft. So in the last 6 months, since the college basketball season ended, he's done a remarkable job of developing those two weaknesses in his game. And the three-point shot is finally there, and it's finally legit. And that's a reliable three-pointer that he takes off the dribble, catch and shoot, whatever it is. So it's not just VG Edgecombe, but Tyrese Maxey deserves as much credit for VG Edgecombe's insane start to the year as anybody.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And I do think Tyrese Maxey has been overshadowed a bit. So appreciate you for pointing that out in its entirety there. For Edgecombe to still talk about him a little bit more, man, I'm starting to think some crazy things about this backcourt that I was saying flash forward within the next 2 years. This could be the best backcourt in the NBA. I think they might have a case at this season's conclusion. And when we're talking about like players that, I mean, who do you want to name that's better than him? Like when you look around the league, the way that these guys can get up and down the field, the way that they're compatible with each other with Maxey and Edgecombe here. And we're not even forgetting like Jared McCain is going to be a huge part of this team as well. This Sixers team is deeper at the guard spot than I ever thought was possible. And I think both these guys, like Edgecombe, I'm not going to be making the all-star case just yet, but he looks like that type of player from day one. And it's interesting, like my biggest takeaway when watching him at Baylor, there was a whole lot of feelings of like, this kid hasn't figured out how good he is yet. He figured it out, man. He learned. And he talked a lot about like the spacing of college basketball and how much that hurt him. He was right. Like you can tell the difference. And there's just a fearlessness that continues to pop off the screen. And even Maxey just setting the tone for this entire team. We've talked about like the leadership aspect, but little moments like last night when Maxey gets fouled by Desmond Bane kind of stands over him a little all demonstrative. And then Maxey gets up in his chest. Like that stuff that like, there are little things like that, but that matters for like, we're not letting ourselves get walked over. We're not getting punked this season in the way that was the case in past year. And there is just this resiliency to this team that I keep getting fired up about.
It's a completely different offense, and part of it's the pace, part of it's how fast they're playing transition. What's the stat I have right here right now? They're scoring 1.40 points per possession in transition. It's the third best in the NBA, and they're seventh to last in transition frequency. So it's not like they're doing it a ton, but when they are in transition, they are so incredibly efficient, and that's a credit to Tyrese Maxey and VG Edgecombe. They're number one in the NBA in passes made. So this team is moving the ball and moving the ball quick. They're best mark in the league in three-point accuracy, 42% from three. And that's after last year, they shot 34% from three, fourth worst mark in the league. They have the number one offense in the NBA, and yeah, they have the third worst defense. That's a conversation for later. But this offense is just clicking, and it's because of the movement. It's because of the off-ball movement. It's because of the pace. It's because of how quickly they're moving the ball from side to side. And it starts with that backcourt. And those two guys create so many advantages for everyone else because they are so athletic, so fast, and unguardable, whether it's in the half court or in transition. So it's really impressive to watch. And Nick Nurse deserves a ton of credit for implementing an offense that was catered around that backcourt and how explosive and fast and athletic that backcourt is, because this team just had to play faster. The days of this sluggish offense where you're going to dribble the ball up the court and give it to Embiid at the elbow or the mid post, and he was probably going to score because he's that great of a scorer as a per shot scorer. But that was a sluggish offense, and that was built around a big man. That offense is done. This is a completely brand new Sixers offense and team and roster, even though it's not that different, it feels different. And look, we're reacting to 3 games into an NBA season. It's ridiculous to make these grand proclamations like we are, but it looks and feels different.
Yeah, absolutely there. And shout out to you guys getting involved in the conversation. Shout out to our guy Phil checking in. And yes, Joel Embiid will be back in tonight. A quick note on that. I've seen a little bit of the criticism of Joel suiting up against the bad team, doesn't want to play the contender. It's way too early in the season for them to be playing this game. And what I think makes complete sense to me is just keeping on the same schedule that he played Saturday, rest Sunday, Monday, plays Tuesday, rest Wednesday, Thursday, and plays Friday. That just makes sense to me. And that's the reason, the logic behind this, at least I'm assuming that. But yes, Joel Embiid will be back on the floor tonight. Shout out to our guy, Rocky the Birds fan, and shout out Dominic Barlow, who he throws a little comment to. He's been awesome, and that's another example of just high-level athleticism players that they have added to this team. I will throw a note in here. Dominic Barlow does have my watch for the potential strange Sixers injury of the season here, that he was taken out of the second game with a laceration on his elbow. Apparently required a procedure for that laceration, which I'm not even exactly sure what exactly that does mean. So we'll see what ultimately happens, but they definitely need him back on the court. And I do love Jared McCain still getting some love, saying Edgecombe very good, but McCain's still better. We got both of them, so we don't got to do the comparison right now. I'm happy the more the merrier right now. Now, speaking of these guys, I have a couple takes that, Sam, I want you to reel me in when I'm getting too crazy with the Sixers now.
That's what I'm here for.
I want to start with the VJ Edgecombe player comparisons, kind of looking at not right now, but what he's growing into. Anthony Edwards, do you see the vision?
I see it from an athletic perspective. He absurd athlete, the way he glides across the floor, gets to his spots. The pull-up game looks familiar. He's not even close to the player Anthony Edwards is yet, but I see it. Yeah, like of course I can see it as I'm watching them play.
Do you see Jimmy Butler? I don't see it as much, but I've seen this tossed out there.
No, and that's one of the things that's actually a negative with VJ Edgecombe's game is he relies on the mid-range a lot. And that's not an incredibly efficient shot. Look, I don't really have a problem with guys taking mid-range every now and then, but that is a shot that teams don't, their front office and coaching staffs don't want their players taking in the NBA. And it feels like he relies on that mid-range a little too much. And as he develops, that's kind of taken out of his game and really strictly rim attacks or 3-pointers, which is what his shot profile will probably eventually look like. So I get those comparisons to Jimmy Butler because, and I've seen Dwayne Wade too, which maybe you were going next. I've seen that because of the mid-range game that he's good at. He can definitely hit those midi pull-ups for sure, coming off screens, whatever it is, attacking closeouts. But I think that's something they're going to try to get away from because the NBA, when Jimmy Butler was doing it at his prime and when Dwayne Wade was certainly doing it at his prime, it was more acceptable to take those type of mid-range shots.
That's fair. This one you're going to have to reel me in, and I got to preface this heavily here.
Yeah, this is going to be ridiculous.
I'm not calling VJ Edgecombe.
Everyone just close your ears. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, skip like 30 seconds ahead.
Hear me out. I'm not calling VJ Edgecombe potentially the best basketball player of all time. But tell me you can't squint and see him move the way that Michael Jordan does move.
Again, Anthony Edwards, like 2 seasons ago, I remember it was a hot topic. People were comparing Anthony Edwards to Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And obviously it's absurd. You can't compare anybody to the greatness of Michael Jordan. But I understood it with Anthony Edwards. It's because of how he moves and how his hang time in the air, his athleticism, how he gets to his spots, how he rises up. All that stuff looked familiar, which is why Anthony Edwards drew those comparisons. And now VJ is drawing those comparisons to Anthony Edwards. So, of course, it lines up. Like, I get it. How he glides, how he moves, sure. But it's just, like, let's never compare anybody in the history of basketball to Michael Jordan because it's just, it's become ridiculous.
I understand, but I'm just saying, dude, the way that he moves, like the way that he floats in the air, I can't remember a Sixers player ever looking like I've tweeted out several times now that this is the best athlete the Sixers have had since Andre Iguodala. He's a better athlete than Andre Iguodala and a more functional athlete. Like so often players of like this archetype, you don't get the basketball savvy that VJ already has, like the feel for the game that he's already showing. I'm getting a lot of hate on the Michael Jordan, so I understand.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just excited, man. It's 3 games. This is unbelievable. This is probably the best 3-game start that I can like think of a player that
because they're fun. Like this team there's no drama. There's no ramping up with Embiid. We're doing it without Embiid, and even the games he was playing, they're better on the floor when he's sitting. So if he can just be a cog in the system, like we were talking about earlier, instead of the entire system, which is what they found ceiling. It's like, all right, if you're going to play and you're going to be productive out there, fine. If not, he hasn't even the 2 games he played, he wasn't even in the closing lineup. Like they closed with him on the bench because he hit his minutes restriction. So it's like if this team is fun without Embiid, that gives you so much hope for the future. And how about Quentin Grimes? Can we show Quentin Grimes some love, who's shooting 53% from 3 and is a big part of why they're leading the NBA in 3-point percentage right now? Huge shot over the Hornets on Saturday night. This team is awesome, and it's a big part of because Grimes, the Tyrese Maxey, and VJ Edgecombe in that 3-guard lineup that they're going with.
I will throw a little jab at the comments right here because I remember being laughed at all summer saying, what happens if VJ Edgecombe is just better than Quentin Grimes from day one? And how many people told me that's absolutely impossible. Well, he is, yeah. And Grimes is still a very important part of the team. The biggest compliment that I have towards him is he's back buying in, man. That when there was this weirdness with the contract and things that sort of stretched out this offseason, he has put business to the side, bought into his role, and played team basketball there. So hat tip to Quentin Grimes. You're going to be an important part of this team all season long.
And the last thing is they also are number one in the NBA in turnover rate, which
Yes.
is they're not turning the ball over. And the possession battle is huge. And they are just not turning the ball over, which is really important, especially when they're playing through a young guard in VG Edgecombe a lot of times, and Tyrese Maxey and Quentin Grimes, when those are your like three main ball handlers out there. The fact that they haven't turned the ball over is impressive. Nick Nurse would definitely like to generate more turnovers the other way, because this defense, and we're talking about a 3-0 start, this defense is the third worst in the league. And part of that is because even when Embiid's out there, they don't have a lot of rim protection. Maxey, obviously, he's made strides as a defender, but they don't have a lot of point of attack defenders to stop the ball, and don't have a lot of good ball pressure. So this defense is struggling for sure, but they've just been able to outscore everybody for now.
Yeah, and Trendon Watford making his return tonight, which I do think is going to be a valuable piece, and will change the picture to an extent. We'll see how it all fits together. I also wanted to pull up this comment here. Shout out to Kelly Oubre Jr., man. This has been a dude that I don't love the way that he's always talked about. Like, he does feel like sort of a punching bag to the Sixers fan base at times. I've always had respect for Kelly for just being like a hard hat guy that's going to give you everything he's got. He's not a perfect basketball player by any means. I wish he was a better shooter. Sometimes the decision making isn't great, but he's been excellent to start the season on both ends of the floor there. So a little hat tip to Kelly Oubre Jr. My last take before we shift to the rest of the NBA here. Sam Oshtry, I think Tyrese Maxey can pass Cade Cunningham as the best guard in the Eastern Conference this year.
Oh, take a breath, Sam. Take a breath. I've had a long day. I'm not going to overreact to your blasphemy. It's 5 p.m. We have a great slate of games tonight. I think I agree with your sentiment that Tyrese Maxey, I think, can become better than Cade Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can. I think he will become better than Cade Cunningham. There is a guy who's way better than both those guys combined, who's leading the best team in the East and one of the best teams in the NBA right now. That they have a long way to go, both those guys, to even reach Jalen Brunson's status. But Tyrese Maxey, I think, especially the way Cade start the season, he's really struggling, especially shooting the ball. But I think Tyrese Maxey can pass Cade as the second best guard of the East.
We will see. I will say the way that Maxey is like, his skill set is so versatile in the way that, like, he can play off ball, he can play on ball, he can be a true point guard. I think he's been a good playmaker this year. He can shoot the lights out. He's pulling up from like 35 feet, like without hesitation this year. I love everything about this dude. He's a terror in transition. It just checks every single box. He's the complete package in a way that I didn't think it was possible for him to grow into this, especially at this rate. And we have not even seen his best basketball just yet.
Yeah, and then the way he's developing and growing for sure on the court, he's also going to be like one of the most likable Philadelphia athletes in a long time. And one of the Sixers promised going into the season, and organizations, front office make promises all the time. Most of them, they don't even come close to true. But one of the Sixers promised this offseason was, we're going to give the city of Philadelphia a basketball team to be proud of again, which it sounds simple, but after last season's debacle, and I know so many people who canceled season tickets after the last season, and how embarrassing it was to the fan base, to the city, to the organization, just from an effort perspective. Forget the injuries, just from an effort, from a coaching perspective, everything. They owed that to the fan base, and they've so far through 3 games, Nick Nurse, the entire coaching staff, the players, and the effort they're playing with, even though Nick Nurse is going really deep on his bench and they've dealt with some injuries, they even haven't even had a full rotation yet this entire season. When Paul George comes back, that's going to be an interesting conversation where he fits into the equation. But they've given the city and the fan base finally a team to be proud of again.
Absolutely. And I know you have quite a few stats for me, Sam, but I want to hit you with a little pop quiz question real quick. Out of Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey, who has a higher career high in the postseason and a career high in Madison Square Garden?
It's an irrelevant stat, but because you're bringing
Tyrese Maxey is the answer.
I'm going to guess Tyrese Maxey.
That is correct. He has scored 51 points, and Jalen Brunson's career high is 47. At Madison Square Garden in particular, it is 44. So
who was better that series?
Who did?
Who was better that series?
Brunson
was better that series. A big reason why the Knicks won. Brunson was the best player on the floor that series when Embiid was playing, and he had 50 that series too.
Joel was better than Brunson in that series.
Because defensively,
he was still playing.
Embiid was as bad as Brunson defensively.
No, he was not. Not that
Embiid
series.
Hit the rim.
No, not that series. He was still bringing it defensively.
Embiid was not better than Brunson that series.
Yeah, well, we'll table that for now, but
Then why didn't the Sixers win? Then why didn't the Sixers win? Especially in the clutch. You talk about the first 30, or excuse me, first 43 minutes of a basketball game. What about the last 5? Brunson was better in the clutch. The Knicks were better in the clutch. That whole series, all those games came down to the wire.
Consecutive to put the game away last night for the Sixers. I'll note Tyrese Maxey did that.
Oh, Tyrese Maxey. I'm talking about Embiid.
Yeah.
Where's Embiid been in the clutch in the playoffs?
All right, well, we'll table that for now. Shout out to Jamal for getting involved. The super chat, appreciate you a lot, my man. He says, what is your guys' ideal starting 5 when fully healthy? I like Maxey, VJ, PG, Barlow, and Joel. Sam, do you have an answer for what your starting 5 is? And I'll preface this with a little bit of I do want to see different variations of it and see what it looks like before locking anything in. But what's your gut feeling right now?
It really depends what you can get from Embiid's rim protection, right? Because ideally, I would like to see Maxey, Edgecombe. I don't agree with that. Maxey, Edgecombe, Grimes, PG at the 4, and Embiid at the 5. I don't have a problem if they put in PG at the 3 because they're not generating any corner threes, which hasn't been a problem yet because they're still leading the NBA in 3-point percentage and shooting a ton.
And McCain's going to help a ton with that as well.
McCain's going to help a ton with that, but Paul George is also going to help a ton with that. So those two guys will fit the role of shooting corner threes because all their threes right now are above the break, and that's because Edgecombe and Maxey are such great transition players. And those two guys like to get out in transition. So most of their threes have been above the break instead of the corner threes that you're really accustomed to seeing in NBA basketball these days. But so I like to see Paul George. He's going to be in the starting lineup when he's healthy. That's no question. But I don't love to see Grimes coming into a bench role. He can run the second unit if he has to, but he's been playing really well alongside VJ and Maxey right now that I don't want to see him take that back seat. But the problem is you have to go bigger and not play PG at the 4 if you can't get good rim protection from Embiid. And he doesn't have the lift that we really haven't seen him have.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's going to depend how much his knee scales up to an extent. But I honestly think Trendon Watford has a chance to earn that role. And in that case, my prediction would be, or my gut feeling or ideal answer to this question right now, once again, shout out to Jamal, I would go Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Paul George, Trendon Watford, and Joel Embiid. I like the additional size. I think Grimes and McCain are guys that can provide a spark off the bench. And I did honestly expect coming into the season to make the case that we're going to talk about Edgecombe coming off potential role. We are past that point already. He is too good to be doing that and ready. And also a guy that can guard bigger than him. He spent time guarding Franz Wagner last night, and he certainly wasn't flawless in it. He took his lumps for stretches, but the fact that he's ready to take on that type of challenge, not back down, I still think is a huge compliment. So it's exciting that they have options with these type of questions.
I like Trent Watford a lot. I could definitely see him moving into that starting 4 role. I think what's good about this team now is they are really deep when they're fully healthy. Paul George doesn't have to rush coming back because of the success they've had without him so far. And they're not beholden to starting Paul George just because he's on this crazy contract that the Sixers.
They will, though, I think.
No, they will for sure to start the year. But if he stinks, if he's not shooting the ball well, if he's just trying to isolate a lot and just not playing within the offense that the Sixers want to play, because he's not a guy that necessarily plays fast all the time throughout his career. If he's not playing that role, they can move him to the bench and he can operate in the second unit. They don't have to start him if things aren't working when he does come back and eventually gets that starting position. I could easily see him coming back, starting, not playing that well, then sliding to a bench role. They have a lot of optionality, especially when Jared McCain comes back too. So it's going to be interesting to see how Nurse kind of tweaks these rotations.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Dominic Barlow. And by the way, I don't think we probably see Paul George come off the bench at any point. I think that he is going to be a starter one way or another, but we'll see what happens. There are a lot to play with. We're getting a lot of Dominic Barlow love in the comments, which I appreciate here. I think Barlow's been awesome. And for this comment right here, the big fella can't jump no more. That's the biggest thing that we're going to see if there is, as he works himself up, is there a bit more verticality and just athleticism overall? Or is this is who Joel Embiid is at this point in the game? Barlow is the guy that will benefit by far the most from that. I think it's very telling that Nick Nurse had the guts and the belief to start Dominic Barlow for the first 2 games of the season when he's on a 2-way contract here. And by the way, I don't think that 2-way contract is going to last. And I think he'll be upgraded to a standard contract at some point this season here. What's your feelings on Barlow, and do you think he will end up having any sort of case for this starting job?
No, but he'll definitely be converted at some point from a 2-way contract because he's earned that. I don't think I think he's a reliable 4 when you have some injuries. when like Trent Watford didn't start the season. Obviously, Paul George isn't starting the season. So I think he's reliable as he's been a really good rebounder. He's a good screen setter. He can finish around the rim. Like he just kind of just knows his role and is constantly in the right spots. So I trust him coming off the bench more than I would starting throughout a full season. But I think he's certainly a solid replacement player.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit matchup dependent on that. If Embiid is like cooked athletically, which is certainly a possibility, if he looks like he currently does through the duration of the season, he is a guy that I could see benefiting from that. But I do think he's also going to be sort of a spark of energy guy, a jolt the entire roster, the way Adem Bona sort of kind of is as well. And that's another dude who absolutely popped last night. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I do want to transition and touch on the rest of the NBA to an extent. And Sam, I'll let you lead off a little bit. I know you got plenty of stats here. What's your first stock up or stock down that you want to jump into here?
Yeah, so I think we're both, no question, the Sixers stock is way up, and you could have bought it for a
pennies on the dollar.
Price. Yeah, seriously, to start this season. And there's another team who stocks up that I bought before the season, and that's the Miami Heat, who I've been super impressed with just in terms of how they have completely reinvented their offense. And they're playing with the fastest pace in the entire NBA. And that's coming after last year. They played with the fourth slowest pace in the NBA. They lead the entire league in transition possessions and points. And this is a team that is just running so fast. Like you can see it when you watch the Heat's games on League Pass. You can just see Spo from the sideline, whether it's a defense rebound they get, whether it's a made bucket. He's just frantically telling them, go, 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 because he just wants to push the pace. And this is a trend you're seeing throughout the NBA. It's not just the Sixers and the Heat, and the Bulls have always been a team that plays really fast. And I don't know necessarily if it's like because of the Pacers, but like for the first time, obviously pace has increased throughout the NBA for quite some time over the last few years now. But this season, it really feels like a lot of teams are making priority. Just play really fast, get into their actions super early. The Knicks are kind of like that. So I've really been. It's been fun to watch the Heat team, a Heat team that has a lot of prove-it players and weren't going to make a lot of noise this year. So when you look at this Heat team, they have 8 guys averaging at least 9 points per game, and that's without Tyler Hero, who should be back in a few weeks, but he's their lead guard and he's their best scorer. And they're doing it by never running pick and rolls. They run the fewest pick and rolls in the NBA. And that's really rare to have the offensive production they've had while running such few pick and rolls, because it's obviously a pick and roll league right now. They're just trying to outpace everybody by getting to the action super early, pushing the ball before, getting points in transitions. So they don't even have to get into any set defenses, and they don't even let or set offenses, and they don't even let the defense get set. So Norman Powell, I know we just had a comment about Norman Powell. I thought that was a huge acquisition for the Heat, and I thought that was an underrated loss for the Clippers, because he was playing at an all-star level last year. He's been great. He's obviously their leading scorer, but guys like Jaime Jaquez have been awesome. Nikola Jovic, Simone Fettuccio.
He rules.
He's been great so far for them. Like this, they're just getting production from all across their lineup in a way that the Heat typically do, and they just squeeze every ounce of juice you possibly can out of every single player, and they're doing this without their best player. So I think the Heat are legit, and they obviously have the best coach in the NBA. This could be a top 5 team in the East when the 82 games are wrapped up.
Yeah, it was definitely time for the Jimmy Butler experience to be over down in South Beach. And one of the things that I think sort of came with the Jimmy Butler territory is that they were just going to sleepwalk through the entire regular season and then flip that gear when the postseason comes. They're past that point, and it's refreshing to see that they are competing and trying and, giving effort on a night-to-night basis. I'm intrigued by this Heat team. I think you're still a little bit more in, or you would raise your stock price more than I am. I think Norman Powell is the real deal. I want to see it with Tyler Hero, who I thought grew as like a playmaker last year as well. So we'll see how it all plays out. I also don't even really think this is a counter to your point, but just sort of another observation. I also think teams are like pressing at a way more regular rate and picking up like at a higher pickup point than I can really remember ever being the case in the NBA. So some stylistic changes.
And I think that's also a result of the Pacers. I really think this Pacers team from last year is going to be remembered like those 07 Suns teams where the 7 seconds or less Suns were really iconic in terms of how they changed the NBA and how teams approach playing basketball, but they never won a championship. So they were never like lauded as these all-time great teams. That Pacers team obviously went to Game 7, didn't end up winning a championship, but they're going to be remembered as a team that revolutionized how teams play. And it starts with how fast people are playing, how quickly they're getting to their actions throughout the league, but also, like you just said, teams pick up points. I mean, there's been charts that it's something I was monitoring going into the season, and a lot of good accounts have charted this, where teams' pickup points are higher across the board than they've ever been. And then that's to prevent, a lot of that is to prevent the pace, right? Because when you're picking up really high, when you're picking up a team really higher, or excuse me, like essentially full court pressing them, you're preventing them from getting up the court quicker and playing with a lot of pace. So it's really like a game of cat and mouse that you're playing. But all this is a trend because of what the Pacers were doing last year, where they were one of the first teams to kind of reinvent the way that NBA basketball is being approached. And even with the deeper benches that you're seeing, I feel like you're seeing teams play deeper into the benches. We'll see if that continues as the year goes on. But these are all really interesting trends to monitor. And we see a comment here say Simone Ventaccio, I believe. Is that how his name is pronounced?
I think it's Checo, I want to say. It's one that I avoid as well. Yeah, it's one that I avoid as well. I'll say that. And your last point on the Pacers, I forget, how many playoff series did you pick them to win last year, Sam Oshtry? I can't remember.
Zero. I had the Bucks beating them in the first round.
Yeah, I do remember that. So you've never been a Pacers guy, but I respect you acknowledging the influence there. I'm going to hit a stock up and a very obvious one here with the San Antonio Spurs. I know you got a ton of Wemby stuff to give me, which I'm all in on. They've become my very clear league pass team. I can't get enough of watching this team play basketball. Victor Wembanyama every single night does something I've never seen before. Last night, a 360 layup. It's all 7'7". The dribble behind the back and transition playmaking, it's nuts, the things that he is capable of. Dylan Harper looks like a 10-year vet, man. It is unreal. He's one of the best paint attacking guards that has come into the league in I don't even know how long, several decades to this point. Stephon Castle impacting, winning at a high level. Devin Vassell continuing to develop. Jeremy Sochan coming back. De'Aaron Fox still coming back. This team is incredible. It's their first 3-0 start. Well, they're now 4-0 since 2019. This is going to be a team right in that mix in this incredibly deep Western Conference. I love the San Antonio Spurs, man.
Yeah, this team's, I mean, Wemby is, we've talked about it. We'll talk about it a million times over. He's already an MVP candidate. He's already one of the best players in the NBA. And that's just speaks to his development and his shot, how he completely switched his shot profile. From the first 2 seasons of his career to this season, where he is not just coming down the floor and chucking threes anymore. He's playing way closer to the rim, getting to the basket more. His average shot distance is way closer to the rim this year than it was last year. Again, he's capable of shooting threes off the bounce. We've seen a lot in transition above the break threes. We see it coming off screens, all of it. He's capable of that. But when you're 7'7", it's like get downhill. And he's doing a much better job of that. He's drawing in defenders and kicking at a better rate. His playmaking chops have improved. He's when you have him on the floor, it almost doesn't even matter who else he's surrounded with. But to your point, Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper have been great. And Stephon Castle, he could bring the turnovers down a little bit more for my liking, but Dylan Harper's feel for the game
it's unbelievable.
Is incredible. And guys like Harrison Barnes and all over the floor, they're not a great shooting team, but they have enough shooters when you're surrounded by Victor Wembanyama. And then the defense, when the Spurs have Wemby on the floor, they have a 93 defensive rating. That's that would be the best defensive rating in the NBA by a mile. The best defensive rating in the NBA right now.
Straight up can't score in the paint when he's in the floor.
It's impossible. The best defensive rating in the NBA right now is 104. So when they have Wemby on the floor, they're a 93 defensive rating. That's how great that defense is with Wemby on the floor. But with him off the floor, that defense becomes a defensive rating becomes 118, which would be one of the worst in the NBA. So it kind of shows you his impact alone. Think about that. A 93 defensive rating when he's on the floor, and that becomes 118 with him off of it. And he's not playing an absurd amount of minutes. He's playing kind of a normal minutes load for him. But when he's on the floor, it is impossible to score on this team because of his rim protection, because you just can't score at the rim. And he really just slices the floor in half almost. And it's unbelievable to watch. So this team, the experience is a factor when they actually get to the playoffs. But in terms of their regular season, they could easily be a top 3 or 4 seed.
Yeah. And I will throw in as a little bit of a defense. I think the Luke Cornett injury has diluted those defensive stats to an extent there. By the way, have you heard the nickname that he's going by down in San Antonio?
Cornett or Wemby?
Cornett.
No.
French Vanilla.
Okay, I like that.
It's terrific. That's terrific. I think they're compatible. I think they can play together. I'm excited for it. So
I mean, it's a way better addition than Zach Collins, too, which is what they had before. Like,
he's
when Cornette and Wemby are on the floor together, I mean, what they do offensively is a whole different thing. But defensively, it's literally impossible to score at the rim against those guys.
Yeah, and shout out to Nick Curcio in the chat. Fontecchio is the pronunciation. He is right on that. Now that I read that, that is Simone Fontecchio there. So shout out to that. I'll let you bring up the next one. Where is your next stock up, stock down across the NBA?
Yeah, so it's stock up right now, but I could easily see myself selling the stock at some point. And it's the Chicago Bulls, who are also 3-0 atop of the Eastern Conference standings. And I'm wondering if you think the Bulls are for real or not. But they've been fun to watch. We both love Matas Buzelis.
That's right.
I really struggle with all these pronunciations. Josh Giddey has been awesome. They had a huge win over the Hawks last night, an impressive game that came down to the clutch. I really like how much this team moves the ball. Again, they've led with the NBA in pace last year. They're playing with a ton of pace again this year. They're number 3 in the league in passes made, number 2 in assist rate, number 1 in drives. So they're getting downhill. What's surprising is this team is the league's best defense. That is what I don't think is sustainable. I just don't think they have the quality of defenders that you would expect from a league's best defense, especially when Nikola Vucevic is the guy in the middle as your rim protector. He's not really a guy that you could, you put him in action in the pick and roll because he can't really move his feet or defend the screen and roll. So I don't love this team's prospective future, I would say, but I do think that they are more fun and better than they were last year at the very least.
Kevin Huerter doesn't fire you up for his defensive impact?
He actually played well yesterday, and he got a lot of closing time minutes last night. Look, you have to play defense with him. Like Trey Jones comes in for defense, and he goes out.
Also been very good.
Yeah, he's been good too, and he's a good defender. But Kevin Huerter's not a good defender, so it's an offense-defense thing. He's fine. He had a great year in Sacramento. He's actually a Terp, so I always root for him. But he's not a guy that moves the needle exactly.
Yeah, I like Ayo Dosunmu a lot. I've been a Matas Buzelis guy. We are just getting the toughest names possible as we talk about these NBA teams right now. Kobe White's going to be a guy who I believe he hasn't even played yet this season, if I'm not mistaken. He'll be returning. So that's another impact player. As far as whether I'm buying stock or selling stock, I think this is the most legitimate Bulls team that I can think of in several years, at least probably since the Derrick Rose era of actually I'm buying in a little bit and see the vision for what they're building towards. I still think given the state of the Eastern Conference, they probably find a way to sneak into that play-in or low-end playoff range. I don't really think that they're anything to worry about just yet, but it is encouraging to see them moving in the right direction. And they do have guys that I could view as building blocks and foundational pieces, which has been absent for several years.
Yeah, one stat I found was the teams are shooting 26% from 3 against the Bulls right now, which is kind of the reason why they have the best defense in the NBA. That is not going to keep up. That even if you're forcing tough threes and you're getting good contest on them and they're not necessarily wide open or open, that's not sustainable. Teams are going to naturally shoot better against you, and it's going to be hard to keep a top 5 to 10 defense in the league based on their personnel again. But this offense is fun. This offense is really fun, and it's encouraging what we've seen from Bulls right now, where they've just been stuck in mediocrity in that play-in tournament for years. Could this be the year they escape that and maybe get a 6 seed in the East? The East is wide open, especially with how bad the Pacers and Celtics look, so it's possible.
Yeah, and just to throw out a couple more stats, Bulls-wise, they're turning the ball over at the second fewest times per game. They're not forcing a ton of turnovers. You mentioned the three-point defense not being great there. I'm curious. This team has piqued my interest to an extent there. So I'll follow your transition from the Boston Celtics there, which were, as we mentioned, my championship pick coming into the year. I believe my guy Jaron in the comments did remind me of that already. Yeah, they look horrible, man. The Jaylen Brown stuff, they're starting to do the injury management. They may be buying into this being a gap year more than I expected was going to be the case. I did not think Joe Mazzulla was wired to let this happen. I'm not panicking yet. I still think there is a world where this team, and because of the state of the Eastern Conference, they could find a way to sneak in there. They are a team that I view as just give me a ticket to the dance and they can make things happen. So I'm not all the way out, but I have been very discouraged by what I've actually seen on the floor to this point.
They just can't rebound the basketball. They have the worst rebounding rate in the entire NBA. They especially defensive rebounding. It's awful. When teams they're not a good defensive team as is because teams get a ton of shots at the rim against them. And I believe the stat here is they have so the Kings have just 20% of Kings attempts have been at the rim. That's less than Utah and Boston, which was a stat I was looking at earlier. So those 3 teams, the Jazz, the Celtics, and the Kings, get the fewest shots at the rim. So they just don't have any front court depth to score at the rim. And on the flip side, they don't have any rim protection and they can't rebound the basketball. So if you're the Celtics and you don't have any front court, then it's hard to rebound, and you're not a good defensive team because you can't protect the rim. And then when you give up an offensive rebound, you're just even more deflated as a defense. That next possession is going to be even worse defensively. So this Celtics team, this is kind of what they expected. I mean, when you get rid of Luke Kornet, Kristaps Porzingis, and Al Horford, you're expecting to have a bad front court, and you're expecting not to be a great team. But the offensive production hasn't been good enough from their guards where it makes it mask such bad front court players. Like even Peyton Pritchard, who I think is a really good player, and
he's let me down this year.
He's shooting 20% from three.
Yeah.
Like it's way harder to get looks when you're one of the top guys on the scouting report. It's Jaylen Brown, it's Derek White, and it's him, than when you're playing alongside such great players like Kristaps and Jason Tatum, and those threes come to you a lot easier, and you're operating a second unit against other second unit defenders. So like it's a completely different experience.
I think Pritchard will.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to shoot 20% from three all year, but it's just way harder to get those looks at the rate he's getting them when you're one of the top guys on the scouting report. So he's been struggling. Again, the rebounding is the big thing. They can't protect the rim, they can't score at the rim, and they can't rebound. It's hard to win basketball games with that formula, and this is what we expect coming into the year, which is I think they'll play really hard and continue to. They're not going to quit, so they'll still win a bunch of games, or maybe they can make the play-in, but this is just a bad basketball team right now.
Yeah, and shout out to my guy Jaron in the comments again. How has Neemias Queta looked? Excellent, actually. I think he's been just fine. To give his production for the year stat-wise, he started all 4 games, played 23.8 minutes, averaging 8.8 points, 8.0 rebounds, 3.5 of those in the offense, then also 2 blocks per game. He has not been the problem. The issue is, like, that's the only option, and if Neemias Queta is your only option, you're not doing the best as a team there. I did want to throw a hypothetical about the Celtics, though, Sam Oshtry. Say they take a swing and trade for like a Jakob Poeltl, like a guy that's totally fine and acceptable, a legitimate like big man. How much do you think that changes their trajectory? And you can use a different filler. You can use Walker Kessler, who's probably better, but like a guy like that, if they were to trade for a big man, would that change the way that you look at them?
Walker Kessler got me intrigued because I really like Walker Kessler. I'm a big fan of his. Like a Poeltl, of course, it elevates their ceiling. But again, what's their ceiling with Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Payne Pritchard as
Jason Tatum coming back?
I don't think that's happening, though. As your 3 primary creators, assuming Tatum doesn't come back, your ceiling is maybe get to the 6th seed. And like if you're really lucky, matchup dependent, and the other team has some injuries, like a Bucks team that you play could be a 3 seed. Maybe you can win 1 playoff series. That's your ceiling, though. I don't think you're risking, maybe if it's an Anthony Simons who's on this expiring deal and you might try to trade, I believe he's on an expiring deal, and you might try to trade him anyway at the deadline, then fine, bring in a center. Otherwise, I just don't think it's really worth it to try to bulk this team up this season when you know it's a gap year. Like this was the plan coming in. It's because Tatum's not playing. That's why you shipped all those guys out. Like they'll never say those words, and the coaches and players won't approach it like that. They're still going to play hard, but it's a gap year for a reason. And then you also come to like February and March, and if this team's looking at like a 10th or 11th seed, you might have to go in the other direction.
They won't.
You might have to go in the other direction and start thinking about tanking.
They won't be that bad. Like I just don't. I get it.
They look bad.
They're 1-3.
They can't score. They can't score, and they can't rebound the ball.
Yeah,
their second chance points they're giving up is absurd.
They're 1-3. They have not looked good whatsoever. They're gonna settle in to an extent. I'm still not selling all my stock, but it's definitely trending in the wrong direction. And kind of my optimism, as you pointed out, like you're right, it's a gap year, and I was fully aware of that. I still think there's a way to thread the needle where you can have a gap year financially and still compete in the state of the East right now. Like to use the Walker Kessler example, that's a dude on a rookie contract. That's not going to break the bank. You can duck the tax in a way that you need to make it work and still have somewhat of a competent team. If Jason Tatum returns, which I think is going to happen, you don't. And that's kind of the root of this entire conversation here. This team is in play to do whatever they want in the postseason here. So I'm keeping my doors open, but certainly trending in the wrong direction right now.
And on a similar note, I don't know if you even have the Pacers on your list. I don't. But that team's really looking at a gap year just because of all the injuries that they've already suffered this year. I mean, TJ McConnell was out to start the year. Then Benedict Mathurin goes out. Obi Toppin's
popping off too. But he
now going to be absolutely. And now Obi Toppin's going to be out a while. They had to sign Mac McClung, and shout out Mac McClung, but they had to sign him because they didn't even have enough guards to play on their roster right now. Like they're just getting decimated by injuries. Of course, we already know Tyrese Halliburton's out for the year. So this is a team that's really going the other direction. and they could end up with like a top 5 pick next year, top 7 to 8 pick next year in a draft that should be electric. And to pair a rookie like that alongside Tyrese Halliburton, when you get all your guys back, this Pacers team has a bright future, but this is going to be an ugly season in Indiana.
I don't think that's the worst long-term outlook if that's how it plays out for Indiana.
That's what a gap year is, essentially. You're punting on this season.
I'll also note a quick Mac McClung story. The moment I knew that Mac McClung was not cut out for the NBA, I went to interview him down at the Delaware Bluecoats. I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm a real deal 5'11" guy, and I was taller than Mac McClung. And that's what I said.
Bounce, though. I'm buying stock in Mac McClung. He's gonna.
I love Mac McClung. I'm rooting for him. I just when I was taller than Mac McClung, I was like, oh gosh, this probably.
I think every NBA scout has seen that, and that's probably why, even though he's been the G League MVP and dominates the G League, he hasn't got a full-time contract until right now. But he should have a huge opportunity with the Pacers. He's going to play because they don't have anyone else to play right now. So he should ball out.
Yeah, make the most of it. Have some highlights, my friend. I'm also going to stick negative for my next stock down, and I'm going with the Orlando Magic here. This is a team that was built as these Eastern Conference threats. They made the big swing. They traded for Desmond Bane, and I'm taking it a step further. I think this is just a flawed roster. I think Franz Wagner is one of the more overrated players in the NBA. It's insane the way this dude was talking out, and I'll call him out directly. Shout out to Trill Bro Dude, who I love, an awesome follow, awesome listen, all this. He continues to ride with the take that Franz Wagner is better than Paolo Banchero, and he's not the only one that I've heard say this. I think that's insanity, man. And both those guys have some significant flaws and similar flaws in terms of shot selection, not being capable or good enough three-point shooters there, needing the ball in their hands. Bane was supposed to be the solution as far as a floor spacing. He's not enough. They need more. And they'll get better as the season progresses. They'll figure out how to play together a little bit. But I am not seeing it, the vision on the floor, the way that the Magic sort of have designed it.
This team can't shoot threes, and they don't shoot threes because they know they can't. Like, they're dead last in three-point makes and attempts, and they're second to last in three-point percentage. And that's just, it's really hard to score the basketball in the modern NBA if you're not shooting and making threes. And that was the problem last year. But you get Desmond Bane, and you think that's going to solve the issue. You get healthier with Jalen Suggs coming back, and you think all that with a point guard like him is going to solve the issue, and it just doesn't. This team hasn't had a top half. They haven't had an offensive rating in the top half of the league since Dwight Howard was on the team over a decade ago. For whatever reason, they've always been really flawed offensively, and I think this is part of it. Like, when you look at this roster, Paolo Banchero is a 29% three-point shooter on his career. Franz Wagner, 32% career three-point shooter. Jalen Suggs, 33% career three-point shooter. Desmond Bane shot 39% last year from three, and he's shooting 27% from three this year. It might just be an Orlando curse, like a Magic curse. When you sign with the Magic, you're automatically become an awful three-point shooter. Because you look at KCP last year. KCP, before the Magic signed him last year, he was a 40% three-point shooter, and that dipped to 34% last season with the Magic. And that really, it was even worse than that for the first half of the season.
It was in the 20s for most of the year.
Three-pointer saved his life.
Yeah,
exactly. And he bumped it up through the last couple months. But for whatever reason, it's a spacing issue. They don't have a point guard. They don't have a real table setter. Even though I like Jalen Suggs as a player, who's a really good defender, he's not a real point guard who can be a table setter. And Paolo Banchero can play the point as a point forward at times, but there's just not a guy who can organize the offense that you need in today's NBA. And because of that, they don't have good shooters as is, but they also don't get good looks from three because of that. And I thought Desmond Bane would play more on-ball reps. That hasn't been that pretty when he does this season. So there's been a lot not to like with this Magic team, but the bulk of it is they can't shoot the ball right now. And if you can't, and they haven't been able to for years because of this roster. And if you can't shoot, you're not going to be able to score. And Paolo Banchero, I really like him. I've been on his stock for a while. He is so frustrating to watch sometimes. Yeah. He just takes the most BS floaters, fadeaway jumpers, like 18 to 16 footers, these awful mid-range shots that everyone across the league, front offices, coaching staff says absolutely do not take. Either make that a three or get downhill. And he just continues to take those awful shots. So I like him. I think he'll be all right, but it's been frustrating to watch him this year.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right about all that there. So yeah, the Magic are a team that it's going to be interesting to see how it goes from here. It would not shock me if Jamal Mosley is a guy whose name, who ends up, his seat gets a little warm by the end of the season here. But we'll see how it does settles. Again, it's still very early in the season.
So real quick, I also had the Magic as my stock down team. They were my number one because it's been so disappointing. People thought this team could be the 3 seed in the East and win 50 to 55 games this year because they're playing in a bad East. But it's not. We just talked about the offense for a while. What's made them great is they've had average to below average offense the last couple of years, but they've had one of the best defenses in the league the last 2 seasons, which is why they've been a playoff team. Last year, they had the best scoring defense in the league. They allowed only 105 points per game. Second best scoring defense in the league the year before that. This year, they're allowing 119 points per game. That's the bottom half in the league, 15th in defensive rating. And their offense, 15th in defensive rating, which is way down from what it's been the last couple of years. So if they can't even get stops, then this team is going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah, no, 100% there. And by the way, Desmond Bane, you have to wear this as an indictment on yourself in a lot of this, because I've seen you look like a solid playmaker with Memphis Grizzlies. I've seen you be one of the premier 3-point shooters in the league. We're still very early in the season, but it's got to change, and he's a big part of all of that. So we'll see how it shakes out. I'll throw it to you for your next stock up, stock down.
Yeah, it's the Mavs. And this stock was really high coming into the season for I have no idea what reason. And I'm not taking a victory lap here necessarily, but I kind of am 3 games into the year because I could not understand it for the life of me. All I was saying was I am selling all of the stock. I'm shorting the hell out of the Mavs because they're not going to be able to score the ball. And look at you have it. Dead last in the NBA in scoring, averaging 108 points per game. Points per isolation, 4th worst in the NBA. They can't score out of the pick and roll. They don't have a point guard. It's been such a disastrous offense in Dallas because, you got Anthony Davis and Derek Lively, and you have Daniel Gafford coming back, and you built this huge front court. Where is the shot creation coming from on the perimeter? You're putting it all on a rookie, Cooper Flagg, who isn't meant to be a point guard. Right. And when he's played point guard, he's looked pretty bad this year. I think he's looked good when he's playing off the ball, maybe alongside D'Angelo Russell for stretches this year, but it's too much of Cooper Flagg having the ball in his hands. It's too much Klay Thompson having the ball in his hands, which he's not a guy that can be a shot creator on the perimeter. So they don't have any perimeter shot creation, and so they can't score. And that's hurt Cooper Flagg's development in a way. And I've just been super disappointed in this Mavs team.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Klay looks pretty washed to me, man, and it's a bummer. I love Klay. Megan Thee Stallion sitting courtside, and you still can't put in more than 10 points in a game.
Yeah,
that can't happen. Yeah, that can't happen. The Cooper Flagg point guard stuff is maddening to me.
Wait, speaking of your boy Justin Herbert's been on a generational run in his bye week.
He has. He's been a busy man. I can't lie. I will say one of my favorite tweets that I've seen all year is, did you see the picture of Herbert blocking the football as it was coming out of bounds at the Lakers game?
The basketball? Yeah.
Or the basketball, yeah. The tweet was, somebody quote tweeted, said, "This doesn't impress me. If this was Tua, he would have dove headfirst into that basketball."
Probably.
Which, very funny there. But yeah, shout out to Herbert, man, making the most of the moment. He also can play the guitar. I didn't know that either. So he's sneaking back into my, okay.
Are you coming around on him?
Not yet. I still hate him. I still love hating him. And I would appreciate if he continues to be hateable, to be perfectly honest. But he's doing his best to win me over. And
furthest thing from hateable right now.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. So we'll see. Excited for the playoffs for me to just rip the Band-Aid back open and him to turn the ball over approximately 47 times in a game. But anyway, to bring it back to the NBA here, I'll hop over to your New Orleans Pelicans here, Sam Oshtry. Stock is down. They have not won a basketball game yet. And I'm going as far to have the take. I think the New Orleans Pelicans are the worst run team in the NBA.
Oh, I thought you were going to go the other way.
No. This team should be better.
Okay, maybe, but what have you seen from this year that's like you're so disappointed in it?
I just don't get the vision, the direction, what is they went all in to basically have the ceiling as like maybe an 8 seed. Like, you don't have your first round pick. It's still, excluding the Luka Doncic trade, the worst decision made by a franchise, worst trade decision made by a franchise in this calendar year. And I would go further back than this. The Derek Queen trade, and where we'll disagree, we obviously feel differently about Derek Queen as a player, but I just stand 10 toes down on that organizational malpractice to do that specific deal, to give up an unprotected first to move up. I think it was 6 spots in the draft. It might have been a little bit more than that, but like, I just don't understand why they push the chips in, why they're rushing things. And then on top of that, you add in like the Jordan Pooles of the world that are over there hanging out and things like that. Re-sign Herb Jones. I'm just confused by this franchise. And I think when I look at teams like the Wizards and the Hornets that I'm buying into the direction here, it feels like the Pelicans are being left in the dust.
I actually really like this Pelicans team, and I know they're 0-3, but they lost last night to the Celtics when Zion wasn't playing. Like, this team needs Zion to be completely healthy, and
yeah, good luck with that one.
It's not encouraging that he already he already is missing some time. But like when Zion's healthy and he's playing point guard, and he has the ball in his hands a lot in those first 2 games this season, which is the right recipe. They have a good roster. We talk about Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and these guys surrounding Zion. I like this team. Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears have also looked really good. Jeremiah Fears wasn't great last night, but those 2 rookies have looked really good, which in a way is justifying the Pelicans' move of moving up. Because my whole thing, why I was defending it, was they believe that they got 2 guys who are top 10 in the draft. So they were willing to part with a pick from next season, because instead of getting a potential lottery pick next season when they maybe think they can make a playoff run with a healthy, or a play-in run maybe with a healthy Zion, they're approaching it from, we have top 10 guys in this year's draft, so we can sacrifice a pick for next season. And maybe that's flawed logic, but you can kind of understand where they're coming from if you're high on Derek Queen as a prospect, which I certainly was. And he hasn't been one of the best rookies by any means, because the rookies have been awesome, but he looks pretty good. He looks pretty comfortable in an NBA role. Jeremiah Fears, I was not big on him coming out of college, but he looks really comfortable so far, and he's lightning quick.
Jordan Hawkins, Eve Missy, like they have talent, man.
But that's what I mean. Like this is, I don't care about the record right now. I think they've actually looked good from what I've seen from the Pelicans.
I guess this is where I'm at is, well, I guess my follow-up questions for starters, how many days do you think you're going to get healthy Zion Williamson? Because
he's got, for this team to make the plan, he's got to play like 60 to 67 games.
How many times has he done that in his career, if you had to guess?
Not a lot. I mean, he's missed a lot of time, but like that was the whole thing. And look, I'm not going to look too much into his body, but like that was coming into training camp. He was the skinniest and healthiest he's looked, which is why there was promise that he could potentially make a run or have a healthy season.
Just to throw it out there, he played 24 games as a rookie, 61 games his second year, missed the entire season in 21-22, and has played 29, 70, 30, and then 2 so far this season. Not particularly encouraging there. I guess, like, what is the best case scenario? How many teams could this team beat in the Western Conference? Like, I think their ceiling is an 8 seed, and I don't see that ceiling raising at any time in the coming years.
Oh yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I think for the Pelicans' perspective, if Zion has a great year, he becomes much more tradable.
Yeah.
And I do think that has to be in their minds, where you want Zion to have a good year because he becomes more valuable as a trade asset. And that you have to start looking into the future when you drafted a Queen and Jeremiah Fears and you sacrifice the pick for next year, where it's like, all right, can we get some of that real estate back if we trade Zion? So this is a big year for the Pelicans for how they approach everything with Zion, but it's also a big year from Zion just to prove his worth in the NBA. I don't think they're going to make a run in the West. Don't get me wrong, but everyone thought this was going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year. And I thought they have a real chance, or I still do think they have a real chance to make the playoffs, which would be a successful season by their standards. And look, we haven't even talked about Jordan Poole, who's been pretty good this year. When he's not a guy who's playing on ball a lot and just jacking shots, a million above the break threes like he used to do when those wasted years in Washington, he can play within a system. He can play alongside Zion Williamson and play within himself. So I've been impressed with him so far too.
Yeah, they should be good. It's sort of my whole issue here. It's like when you look at this roster, that's better than a lot of teams. But I just have zero optimism that will actually be the case. So we'll see how it shakes out there. I'll try and believe. I do enjoy watching them play. Like they're not like a tough watch where there are some other teams like that in the NBA. I just don't see the vision whatsoever with the franchise as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Joe Dumars' track record isn't the greatest.
No.
It's why people were critical of the hire to begin with. But I hear you. I have no more stock up or down. Do you have anything left?
I got one more here. The Charlotte Hornets, I'll end on a positive. Stock up with the Hornets, man. They're fun to watch. LaMelo Ball, and it sucks the game against the Sixers where he took the potential game winner as an atrocious shot, just kind of a step back fadeaway 3 here. Everything else he did in that game, I loved, man. He looks more bought in defensively than I can ever remember him. He's getting on the floor for loose balls. He's setting the tone. Miles Bridges talked about how he walked in the locker room and called him out for not playing well, saying, like, we need you to be more than what you're giving us right now. I love everything about that. And Con Knipple looks good. Brandon Miller will be coming back from injury. He hurt his shoulder in that actual Sixers game. This is a team that I think, like, is absolutely trending in the right direction here and could sneaky slip into that same sort of playing mix. So for the first time, I feel like they're on the right path in several years, maybe even my lifetime here. I like the Charlotte Hornets. I think they're fun to watch and they're fun to root for.
The Hornets have the second best net rating in the NBA.
Wow.
behind the Spurs. The Spurs are at 15.6 and the Hornets are at 12.9. They're outscoring opponents by 12.9 points per 100 possessions, which is impressive and you probably weren't expecting, especially because they have a top 10 defense, which this is not a team that is built to have a good defense. When you talk about Knipple getting a ton of minutes, Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, whose defense is a little iffy. Brandon Miller's hurt again, which is just really annoying to see because I really like him as a player, and he's just been a lot of unlucky injuries. But I'm with you. This offense is super fun to watch. Like Miles Bridges, all these guys, even Ryan Kalkbrenner. Like, he's been good, like really good. That could potentially a steal in the late first round of this draft. LaMelo Ball has been better. There's still moments where it's like some of the stupid shots, the one-legged shots, like instead of just making the easy pass, he'll make some ridiculous, like try to turn it, like some no-look, absurd pass that just like, why can't you just play simple basketball? Like where did you learn to just play this like street ball version of basketball?
You know where he learned. You know where he learned.
What, Dad?
Oh, yeah. LeVar, baby. Triple B.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Big baller brand.
He deserves credit. He got two of his sons in the NBA.
The third would have if he didn't steal some stuff in China, but at least
that's not why he didn't get in the NBA.
I think it is. I think it is.
He stinks. He's not in the NBA because he stole some stuff in China.
Yes, he is, because that ruined his
name. What's his name? The rapper?
Leangelo.
Yeah, he didn't because he stole stuff in China.
Well, that messed up his entire.
You can steal stuff if you're going to basketball player. You can steal stuff and still get drafted. No one cares.
But that
you can do whatever if you're going to basketball player.
That messed up his entire trajectory. At this point, Lonzo went to UCLA, was the number 2 pick in the draft. Leangelo came the next year, was off to like this was like the second game of the season. This was like preseason still, I think. That he was literally like this was like a whole like worldwide like political deal of him being trapped in China.
Trump like freedom, whatever. Yeah, some Chinese. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and then that led to he was kicked off the UCLA basketball team. Then he had to go play, and I forget. I actually have a LaMelo Ball jersey from Viedunas, is I think the team. Lithuania is I think the country it was in. And then
that's where LaMelo played. Did Leangelo play with them?
They were on the same team. Yeah, that's why LaMelo went there. And LaMelo is for sure the superior talent of there. But I will stand 10 toes down and take if Leangelo Ball had not done that, he would have made it to the NBA.
I don't think so because after all that, he still got summer league opportunities, and I believe he got G League opportunities. And I remember watching him play in the summer league once, and like this guy. He just stinks. I mean, he's not even close to an NBA player. So he had those opportunities even after all that. And if he was good enough, trust me, a team would have drafted him or signed him at the very least. So I just think he's just not a basketball player. I did not have 3 minutes on Leangelo Ball on our card today.
He definitely is like the worst of the three of them. But I do think Leangelo would have stuck if he would have stayed on the straight and narrow a little bit and had like the trajectory there. So whatever.
What's that awful song he came out with last year or earlier this year?
Swerve in the corner. Whoa.
One of the worst songs in the history of music.
Tweaker. Yeah. I think that's all he's got. He's performing.
Did he perform at the All-Star game too?
Yeah. And also shout out Sixer fan 229. Great question here. Bronny James or Leangelo Ball? Who's better?
Bronny got minutes last night. They were not pretty. Not pretty minutes last night. And everyone was talking about his development all offseason.
He's bad.
Not pretty minutes last night.
He's bad.
And that's a really good defensive team in the Blazers he was playing, but
I almost threw the Blazers on my stock up too, by the way. I figure we'll let their dust settle before I throw any more spotlight on them for the time being. But I'll also note Bryce James, not any more optimistic, man. Some of the Arizona
I haven't really watched him play. Was he at Arizona this year?
Yeah, he's only playing like garbage time for the most part here, but it has not looked pretty in the brief moments.
He's not even in Arizona's rotation this year?
A little. Like he plays a little, but I think I've watched one game, so I'm not gonna act like I'm an expert on Arizona basketball. Yeah, but I just would bookmark that the James gene pool seems to have gotten diluted a little bit.
It's fair. That's fair.
All right. Any other final thoughts from you, Sam Oshtry, before we get ready to sign off here?
I don't think so. The only other stat we talked about the Spurs and the Wemby stuff. I just had a few stats that's just like pouring through research and everything. I want to sift through. The Bucks have a top 10 offense in the league, and it is all Giannis.
Yeah.
When Giannis is on the floor, they have an offensive rating of 123, which is the 4th best in the league. With him off the floor, they have an offensive rating of 102, which would be the worst in the NBA. He is doing everything for this team right now. I mean, they're a good transition team, but it's all him just getting a defensive rebound, pushing the ball in transition, finding shooters. And they have a good amount of shooters. And Kuzma missed a game the other night, but like he's been fine for the most part. When you have Bobby Portis, AJ Green, all these guys, Kevin Porter Jr., it's enough. Right now, this is enough that's surrounding Giannis, where if Giannis is playing at the NBA level, I mean, everyone's talking about how great Wemby's been. Let's not forget that this is new for Wemby, so everyone's so shocked by it because of his frame and everything. But Giannis is a better player than Wemby right now. I'd much rather have Giannis on my team than everybody in the league except maybe Shea and Jokic. And I don't even know if Shea is above Giannis. He's playing out of his mind. He's doing everything for this offense, which is a top 10 offense in the league. The shots he's creating, I mean, almost every time I watch the Bucks, he's creating on some level every single shot. Even if it's him getting downhill and it's drawing the defense kick out and leads to a hockey assist, he's not necessarily credited for anything. He is doing everything for this Bucks offense, and they're awful when he's off the floor. So this team is good enough right now if Giannis can sustain this production. But again, it's a lot to ask of him. He's not playing a crazy workload of minutes. He's playing a standard 33 to 35 minutes, which has been on par for him the last few seasons. But his last few seasons have ended with injuries going into the playoffs. So I hope he can sustain this level of play because he's been as fun to watch as anybody in the NBA right now.
Yeah, no arguments there. I do see the vision for Giannis and shooters. And I will say, for the conversations about Giannis, what has always scared me about him is I do think there's going to be a moment where it just kind of falls off a cliff where physically he declines and then his game is...
He plays such a physical game, so it's possible.
Right. So that's been my hesitations. I was kind of thinking through what you were saying about the best player, and I kind of went to the start of franchise mode of how many of those guys would you choose over them, and that's what has held me back. I've made the case of why I believe Joel Embiid would age better than Giannis for sort of the reason of that Joel's always going to have a jumper. There's that kind of thing. Physically, obviously, not exactly leaning on my side of things there right now, but I do think that there will be a moment where Giannis sort of just declines immediately here. I hope it doesn't happen anytime soon. You're right, he is a blast to watch, but that is in the back of my mind.
And then the only other stats I had were just about this Knicks offense, which we're going to talk a lot about the Knicks throughout the season. But first off, it's 3-point attempts. They're averaging 46 3-point attempts this year, which is second in the NBA. And that is a far cry from what they were last year, which is when they were towards the bottom of the league in 3-point attempts, averaging 34, which was fourth fewest in the league in terms of 3-point attempts. They're shooting the three a lot more. They're fifth in the NBA in passes made per game at 309 this season. It was 281 per game last year. That was towards the bottom of the league. Touches. There's 438 touches per game this year. That's sixth in the NBA. 401 last year. All these things, these are actual quantitative figures to put behind Mike Brown's new offense, which is, he said they were going to move the ball a lot quicker. He said, or move the ball a lot more player movement, a lot more ball movement, play faster, and shoot a ton more threes. And that's happening right now. They're not shooting the ball particularly well just yet, but that's not a worry. 3 games in the season, they have the personnel to shoot the ball really well. It's been pretty cool and fun to watch this Knicks offense through 3 games of the year, even though it wasn't pretty in Miami the other night.
Do you have Gershon Yabusele's weight anywhere in these advanced stats?
Look, he does not look good, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Played in the Olympics last summer, played a lot of minutes for a bad Sixers team last year and a lot of games, and then played in Eurobasket this summer. He's played a lot of basketball over the last 16 months. Not an excuse. NBA is where you're getting your bread and butter. It's where you're getting paid to really play. So you got to play your best when you're playing the NBA. But he's played a lot of basketball, and he looks tired out there. He has not been great for this Knicks team.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the Knicks fans critiquing that he's put on a couple LBs out there. But
they also, I don't think they realize what he was before. He's always been
he's one of the more uniquely built athletes I've ever seen.
For sure.
But I'll be rooting for Yabusele. I do hope he bounces back, finds his stride. That dude was a joy to watch play basketball, and I think he will settle in and play a pretty important role for this next team. So I'll leave that alone. I do want to give you one more chance to run a quick victory lap here. Your guy, Austin Reeves, man, 51 points. Nick Kershaw also asked, has Austin Reeves, shout out to cousin Nicky, had the best individual performance of any player so far this season? I don't think that. I would throw Wemby. I would throw Giannis above that. I might even throw Maxey above that, but nonetheless, cannot take away from that 51-point performance.
Yeah, he's been awesome. And this is why I said this past summer, I said the Lakers can afford to get rid of LeBron James right now, and they should hope he doesn't opt into this deal so they can cut LeBron James bait, because it clears up so much cap space if you don't have to pay that guy $50+ million. And part of it was because Austin Reeves is ready to be a Kyrie Irving to Luka Doncic, the way that Kyrie was to Luka when he was in Dallas. Like, Austin Reeves is that gifted offensively. Him and Luka isn't the best backcourt, but now Austin Reeves has to do everything because they don't have LeBron or Luka Doncic, and that's probably the worst roster in the NBA, for being honest, without Luka and LeBron. So Austin Reeves has to do everything. Everything's running through him, but he's been good. He's been efficient as a scorer. I mean, 51 the other night, and I believe he had like close to 40 last night in a loss. So it's been an efficient scoring performances from him, but I've always been a huge fan of him. He's earning his payday coming to him next summer, which I never thought was gonna be the max. I thought it was gonna be pretty close to the max, but like, if he keeps up this production this season, a team will pay him the max.
Yeah, and efficient's a very nice way to say foul baiting there. So I'll give you props on that as well. But
that's a credit to him. The best players in the league get to the free throw line at a high rate.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Shout out to AR, man. He's so much better than I ever thought was possible. So shout out to him for making the most of the opportunity. I do see a world where he turns himself into like an all-star. He might be there, like an all-star caliber player, and sees that opportunity. So we'll see how it plays out. He's certainly benefiting from this. But a lot of exciting storylines across this NBA. So Sam, appreciate you chopping up with me today. For everyone listening, appreciate you guys for hanging. Make sure you're getting involved. Thanks for everybody jumping in the comments. Leave a voicemail below at 856-295-1602 or hit that email. You can see it scrolling across the bottom. We're going to be back for next time right here on Pace and Space. Still a lot more basketball to get into. Make sure you're liking, subscribing wherever you're listening. And me and Sam, I'll talk to you soon. Peace.